Welcome to this new Maimer on Kuf Yud Tes Omid Beis. I heard a very interesting story of my brother, Rabbi Shalom Vet, in Mashpia, Montreal, that Rabbi Shlomo Chaim would tell Bochrim to begin when they started serving the Eibishter, davening, thinking Chassidus. So Rabbi Shlomo Chaim would tell them to learn this Maimer. It's a very fundamental Maimer. Maimer says, "Vayikach Cohen esalavush v'sasus," that he took the clothes of the king Achashverosh and he put it on Mordechai. To understand this, there's a Gemara in Masechta Seita that a Talmid Chacham has to have a shminis shebishminis, an eighth of gaiva. Because it says a pasukul sog, an eighth of an eighth is a 63rd, and the Gemara says uma'atrole, and this gaiva that he has is necessary for him, like the kernel of wheat needs a husk. So the Alter Rebbe says, what do we need this mushal of a kernel, of a husk to the kernel? Why is that gaiva? Alter Rebbe explains, what's a Talmid Chacham? A Talmid Chacham needs shminis shebishminis. Who's a Talmid Chacham? A Talmid Chacham is someone who's Talmid from Chachma. He receives from Chachma. Chachma is bittul b'metzias, like it's known, the famous Tanya, Perek Lamed Hey, that Ein Sof only rests in Chachma. So who brings down to the world Chachma? Chachma's view of the world. Yichudei Elor, Yichudei Tator, a Talmid Chacham, because he has a relationship with Ein Sof. And he says that Keser is called Rotzen, and he is connected also to Rotzen, because the Ein Sof, which is Rotzen, shines in Chochmah, so his face is radiant. Those are Talmid Chacham. So you come to this Talmid Chacham, a guy who's bottled to the Eibishter. He's Talmid of Chacham. He knows the unity of the Eibishter in the world. You come to this guy who serves the Eibishter with Ava Yir and Chochmah Bittul, and you tell him, Herzechaim, you have to have shminis shebishminis. Why? He's bottled to the Eibishter. He's mekabel from Chochmah. Zogt der Pshat, Tos der Inyan. To understand how a Talmid Chacham means gaiva, this is the mashal of Chazal, like a husk to a kernel. Sas l'shebelta, because the kernel has moitz, the husk. It's called sasom. The kernel of wheat itself is called shebelta. What makes a kernel of wheat grow? The strong sun and the rain. There's a problem here. Through the strong heat of the sun, could burn. The sun could totally burn the kernel. And also, the kernel, the rain could fall on it and it could get mildewy. Because wherever it's wet, moist, it can get ruined. So the Eibishter made there should be a husk around the kernel. It's a shemer that the sun will not burn the kernel and the rain will not make it mildew, because the husk receives all the heat of the sun, all the beating of the sun, and gets all the moisture of the rain, but the kernel could grow. Then, once it's finished, then the husk falls off and you have a beautiful kernel. And we know the Alter Rebbe says, okay. 1 second. Yeah, 1 second, 1 second. I in middle of my as the Alter Rebbe, like it's known by Maise that the kernel of wheat is not obligated to Maise until you do miruach. Miruach is you take off the husk because of the husk and the straw is not obligated to Maise, and not only is it not obligated, it also takes away the obligation of the kernel. Because the husk is only a cover, a shomer to the kernel. And like a peel to an orange. And Meiser is utter holiness. True Kedusha, it says, Aposek, in Chukoisai, O Asiri Yekedesh LaHashem. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe brings from Sefer Yetzirah, from Kabbalah, that notes Tchilas and Besoifon, the beginning is rooted in the end. Satan is connected with Malchus, and over there is the ultimate Kedusha. So therefore, says the Rebbe, that the ultimate Kedusha in Meiser is only on the kernel, not on the husk. Because when you're talking about holiness, you're talking about pnimis, the purpose of creation. The Yid is pnimi. The world was created for the Yid, and the rest of the world is a shomer, helps the Jew serve Hashem. So it's chitzonius. So to have utter holiness is only after you finish miruach on the wheat and you take off the kernel. Because holiness is only on the ultimate, not on something that helps the ultimate. So the question is like this. How could it be that the husk is not a part of the wheat and not holy? There's no obligation of meiser when we know that without the husk there couldn't be a kernel. Answers the Alter Rebbe. We have to know really the reason it grows, reason you need it is while it's growing to get the beating of the sun and the moisture of the rain. But after it's grown, it doesn't need Hashem. But while it's growing, it does so much good for it. But once it finishes its job, it falls off. Says the Alter Rebbe, this moshul we will understand when it comes to serving Hashem. Because the Talmud Chacham, he loves God. He loves God. He has Avav Yireh. He has bittul to the Rebbeinu. But he's at the beginning of his growing stages. And if not for the husk and the straw, he would have been burnt. What's the pshat of the Alter Rebbe? When you start davening, you need a little bit of gaiva. You can't start serving the Rebbeinu without a bit of gaiva. I'm serving the Rebbeinu. I matter. And I don't want to be separated from the Rebbeinu. If I don't serve the Rebbeinu, it bothers me. I'm a yesh. I don't want to be separate from the Rebbeinu. This is how you have to start serving the Rebbeinu. Even though he wants Hashem, he doesn't want to be far. There's a little yeshes. He knows what he does matters, causes nachasurach by the Rebbe. And if not, it causes tremendous harm. And people are demanding from him. There is a teveya, and he could give excuses. But you got to start with that. If you're just going to start with bittul, you won't have any esteem, like the Alter Rebbe says further. Because you're starting to serve Hashem, you're still far from Hashem. You're still a nifrod. So you're paying back what you owe. But if you would be totally dovuk in Hashem, you wouldn't need these reasons. You're dovuk in the Rebbe. Einen milvade. You're not somebody that has to pay back, and no one is taking you to task. You're connected to the Rebbe. That's the ultimate. That's the kernel of wheat without the husk. Like we find by Avraham Avinu, he was levovei nemo lefanech. Levovei nemo means he doesn't have yetzer tev and a yetzer hora. He's completely sincere with the Rebbe. One lay for the Rebbe. There is no tainut via. No one's asking him. He's just bottled. He knows in milvade. He knows levovei nemo lefanecho. When you have levovei nemo, when you come to the level of Avraham Avinu without any reasoning, then what does it say in davening after levovei nemo lefanecho? We straight away say, God gave him Israel. What does that mean? You conquer your emotions. Because all your emotions are gone. Because they're bottled. And they need the muvade. And ein dover nifrat. Then it says, lo seis lazare. These midis are totally bottled. Lo seis lazare. So there's no fighting. This is the ultimate level. Then there's no need for the husk anymore. When you reach to the level of Avraham. Not everyone gets to start there. Avraham got there when he was Avraham with an extra hay after the breeze. But before that, he was Avraham. What do we find by Avraham? Zog di Gemara Yotza Mimena Yishmael. Yishmael came from Avraham. What's Yishmael? The klipa of Chesed. Because Avraham said, Avraham was the Amarkova to the Chesed. So since he was Chesed, he said, Lu Yishmael Yichel Ufanech. Even Yishmael should live. Because Chesed could go all the way down to Yishmael. And it can go everywhere. And since Abraham was connected with infinity, infinity could create everything. Like it says, Apostle Tehillim Kachashecha Koiro. And it says, Apostle Mishle Shmom is a spider that you can catch with your hand. You could find in the chambers of kings. Because no one cares. So Avraham was connected with infinity. And because he was totally bottled, Yishmael was created. The Talmud Chacham in the beginning, before he's Avraham, when he's Avraham, has to have a little gaiva. What does this gaiva mean? Because when you have gaiva, you cause by the Rebbe also to have the level of gaiva. What's the level of gaiva? That the Eibishter doesn't like the Rishoyim. Because Be'etzem, a Rosh and a Tzaddik is the same thing for the Eibishter. Like it says, Ve'es Esav Saneisi. The Pasuk in Malachi says, I have Yaakov and Esav. They're both alike. Nevertheless, because of Goy Go, Because of your gaiva in service of Hashem, you cause that Hashem also removes himself from the Rishayim. That's why Avram did not have the gaiva in the beginning, so he didn't have the reaction in the Eibishter, and Yishmael was created. So this is the pshat. Shmo misbiyodayim titofes. When the Eibishter doesn't care, so a spider gets in. But when the Eibishter cares, when you want to care, you clean out the spider. But you need go. If you don't have go, so everything's the same for the Eibishter. So the Rishonim could get sustenance. That's why Avram, without a hey, in the beginning of his avodah, since he didn't have this gaiva, Yishmael was created. And this is the pasuk in Yeshaya. Hashem Ramo Yotcha Bal Zoyun. When you're Ramo Yotcha, when you have this gayus that comes elicited from the person serving Hashem with gaiva, then it allows, it should be Bal Zoyun, that the Rishonim don't see godliness. And it becomes Ramal Kol Goyim, removed, because he's go. Nevertheless, like we're going to see later, page 120, this is only when you start serving Hashem, you need the gaiva. Later, automatically, the gaiva, the klippas are removed without the human being's gaiva. We can understand now why the famed Chassid of Shlomo Chaim Kesselman told the Bochum to start to learn this Maimer to see that you need some yeshus in the beginning. And we'll continue. God bless you.